haunted hideaway. Once upon a time, there was an old mansion tucked away in the woods, listed on Airbnb as the perfect secluded getaway. Sarah, a young woman seeking solace from the bustling city life, booked a weekend stay at this mysterious retreat. As Sarah arrived at the mansion, she felt a chill run down her spine. The towering structure loomed ominously against the darkening sky. Despite her unease, she pushed open the creaking front door and stepped into the dimly lit foyer. Inside, the air was thick with a sense of foreboding. Strange whispers seemed to echo through the halls, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Determined to ignore her growing fear, she unpacked her bags and settled into the master bedroom for the night. But as midnight approached, strange things began to happen. Sarah heard footsteps echoing down the empty corridors, and doors slammed shut on their own. Terrified, she huddled under the covers, praying for morning to come. When dawn finally broke, Sarah fled the mansion, vowing never to return. But as she drove away, she caught a glimpse of something in the rearview mirror, a shadowy figure standing in the window, watching her depart with malevolent eyes. The vanishing guests. John and his friends were thrilled to find a quaint cottage nestled in the countryside for their weekend getaway. The Airbnb listing boasted stunning views and modern amenities, making it the perfect spot for a relaxing retreat. But their excitement quickly turned to horror as they realized they were not alone in the cottage. Each night, they would hear faint whispers coming from the walls, and strange apparitions would flicker in the corners of their vision. One by one, John's friends began to disappear without a trace. Panicked, he tried to call for help, but the cottage seemed to be cut off from the outside world. As the nights grew colder, John was consumed by fear, knowing that he was the last one left. Desperate for answers, John searched the cottage for any clue to the sinister force that held them captive. In the attic, he discovered an old journal detailing the tragic fate of a family who had once lived there. Their spirits, unable to move on, now preyed on unsuspecting guests, trapping them in an endless cycle of terror. With no other options, John confronted the vengeful spirits, pleading for his life. Miraculously, they released him from their grip. But as he fled the cottage, he knew that he would never truly escape the horrors he had witnessed. The unwelcome host. Emily, a solo traveler seeking adventure and solace, stumbled upon a charming cabin nestled deep within the heart of the mist-covered mountains. The Airbnb listing promised breathtaking views of sprawling forests and a cozy atmosphere, perfect for a weekend getaway to recharge her weary spirit. Excited by the prospect of disconnecting from the chaos of everyday life, Emily eagerly booked the cabin and embarked on her journey. As she navigated the winding mountain roads, surrounded by towering trees that whispered secrets to the wind, she felt a sense of anticipation building within her. As she arrived at the remote location, she was struck by the sheer isolation of the place. Surrounded by towering trees and with no sign of civilization in sight, the cabin seemed like a sanctuary from the outside world. Its weathered exterior exuded rustic charm, and Emily couldn't help but feel a pang of excitement at the thought of spending the next few days in such a picturesque setting. But as night fell and darkness descended upon the mountains, Emily's sense of tranquility turned to unease. Strange noises echoed through the woods, the rustle of leaves sounding like whispers carried on the wind. An icy chill permeated the air, sending shivers down Emily's spine despite the warmth of the crackling fire she had lit in the cabin's hearth. Determined not to let her imagination run wild, Emily wrapped herself in a cozy blanket and settled into bed. But sleep eluded her as unsettling sounds continued to fill the cabin. Whispers seemed to drift from the walls, and the floorboards creaked as if someone, or something, was pacing back and forth in the darkness beyond her room. In the dead of night, Emily awoke to find herself paralyzed with fear. Standing at the foot of her bed was a figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes gleaming with malevolence in the dim light of the moon that filtered through the cabin's windows. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she struggled to comprehend the horrifying sight before her. Unable to move or scream, Emily could only watch in horror as the entity drew closer, its presence suffocating her with dread. She could feel its icy breath against her skin as it loomed over her, its twisted form casting a shadow that seemed to swallow the very essence of the room. With a sudden jolt, Emily snapped out of her trance and scrambled for the door, her heart racing as adrenaline surged through her veins. Flinging the door open, she fled into the night, her feet pounding against the forest floor as she ran blindly through the darkness. As she stumbled through the dense undergrowth, branches clawing at her skin and roots threatening to trip her with every step, Emily could feel the lingering gaze of the unwelcome host burning into her back, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked in the shadows. To this day, Emily refuses to speak of her harrowing experience at the cabin in the mountains, haunted by the memory of the entity that dwelled within its walls. And though she may never fully understand what she encountered that fateful night, one thing remains certain. The cabin's true nature is far more sinister than it appears, and the mountains hold secrets that are best left undisturbed.